A new Monster Hunter game is a cause for celebration, especially given the trajectory the series has been on over the last several years. After having enjoyed one spectacular success after another, the action RPG franchise is promising yet more exciting evolutions with its upcoming next entry, Monster Hunter Wilds. Changes big and small are being made with the promise of continued improvements on what's already a winning formula. And frankly, we cannot wait to get our hands on the game and experience it for ourselves if those changes will work out as well as they're looking like they will. With the game's release around the corner then, here we're going to talk about some of the things that we cannot wait to dive into the moment we have Monster Hunter Wilds in our hands. Explore the new maps. Monster Hunter Wilds is once again taking players to an entirely new setting in the Forbidden Lands, and so far what we've seen of the new region is looking promising. There's a lot of environmental diversity on offer across the 4 different maps that the developer has revealed so far, from icy cliffs and desert plains to dense forests and vibrant grasslands, which should keep exploration from getting monotonous. On top of that, Monster Hunter Wilds is also removing a lot of the restrictions on traversal and quest structuring of its predecessor. For the first time in the series, players will be able to begin quests directly in the field, and finishing a quest will no longer force you to return to your hub. Meanwhile, traveling from a map to a village or vice versa will also now be seamless. With all of that exploration, traversal, and undertaking quests should all be ideally much snappier and more seamless than ever before. Gallop around on a sacred. Monster Hunter Rise's Palamutes evolved the series formula in tangible ways, and though Palamutes themselves aren't returning, Monster Hunter Wilds isn't simply throwing all of those learnings out the window. This time, players will have access to the raptor-like mounts known as Sacrets, which will shake up both traversal and combat in several ways. Navigating environments while galloping around on a Sacred is, in particular, something that we're quite looking forward to. In fact, because we're hoping the inclusion of quick and agile mounts will mean maps will also have been designed around them.
But we can go over!
Looks like it knows the way.
Mess about with the Slinger. The Slinger is going to take on an expanded role in Monster Hunter Wilds, this time with the added capabilities of Monster Hunter Rise's wire bugs, among other things. From swinging around to gathering items from afar, to even using it as a tool in combat to get the upper hand against your foes, the Slinger is shaping up to be quite the versatile item. We're curious to see just how far that will go and how much it'll change the moment-to-moment action. Get immersed in the ecosystems. This is something that Monster Hunter has always prided itself on, but with Wilds, the developer is promising even more authentic and immersive ecosystems than ever before. And as is ever the case with new Monster Hunter games, that's something that we cannot wait to experience for ourselves. Simply existing in the richly detailed and wonderfully dynamic environments of Monster Hunter games is usually a joy. And with Wilds promising greater improvements in this department than ever, our expectations are certainly high. Enjoy the new weather mechanics. New weather events and changing seasons are going to be one of Monster Hunter Wilds' biggest focal points, and based on what we've seen so far, it's looking like a fascinating addition. The idea of having to deal with dramatically exaggerated sandstorms or blizzards or what have you while you're out on a hunt is an exciting one as it is. But add to that the many ways such a system could impact the other systemic parts of a typical Monster Hunter experience, like carnivores and herbivores being more or less likely to be found out in the wild depending on the weather, and it becomes even more of a headliner. Watch monsters fight and hunt each other. Well, this is always fun, and we bet that will not change with Wilds. In fact, there's every chance that watching monsters interact with each other is going to be even more engaging than ever before. We've spoken plenty about how Monster Hunter Wilds will try and bring its ecosystems to life like never before, while on top of that, the developer is also touting more believable and complex behavior for the game's entire roster of monsters. With all of that said, it's easy to imagine how much fun it could be if the game works as intended, at least, to just watch from the sidelines as different species of monsters interact with each other in different ways, violent or otherwise. Fight new monsters. Of course, as fun as it can be to watch monsters socialize with each other or tear each other to shreds, that's not what any of us come to Monster Hunter for primarily. No, we're here to fight monsters, and that's something that we obviously can't wait to dive into in Wilds as well. The upcoming title is promising a vast and varied roster of monsters that will include not only plenty of familiar fan favorites, but also a host of entirely new creations. Meeting new monsters for the first time, observing and fighting them to learn their behaviors and taking them on in repeated encounters, that has ever been the backbone of Monster Hunter, and we're more than a little excited to see how that part of the experience evolves in Wilds. Forge new armor. Another obvious one, but one that we cannot not mention. As important as fighting the monsters themselves in any Monster Hunter game is what you do with those bits and pieces of monsters that you hack off and take with yourself, because that's how you make all of your gear and weapons. That is what drives the core loop of Monster Hunter, and we have little doubt in our minds that once again, that same addictive loop of beating monsters and then using their parts to make stronger gear with which to beat more powerful monsters is going to keep us hooked for an unreasonable amount of time. Use all the weapons. All 14 weapon types that Monster Hunter fans have now become familiar with are returning in Monster Hunter Wilds. But as usually tends to be the case, all 14 won't be exactly the way that they were in, say, Rise or World. Every new Monster Hunter game makes some tweaks and alterations to how the weapons work, and we're curious to see just what changes Wilds will make in this department. We're sure that there will be some that won't be popular. You're never going to make everyone happy, but hopefully the pros will outweigh the cons. Dive into co-op. Playing Monster Hunter entirely solo is a perfectly fine way to play it, something that many who have clocked in multiple hundreds of single-player hours across many Monster Hunter titles will attest to. Then again, you can't deny that co-op is the best way to play the series, and one that only gets truer with time. Monster Hunter Wilds is also promising plenty of improvements as far as the co-op side of things is concerned, especially for those who want to play through the story with another friend. How effective those changes will be remains to be seen, but we're certainly excited to give them a whirl.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.